Welcome to the Birding for Joy podcast, a show about discovering and exploring all the ways birding and wild birds bring joy into our lives. Throughout Season 4, we'll be focusing our attention on simple actions we can take in our daily lives to help birds and nature. I'm Candi Lynn Fite, your gracious host and joyful birder. If you're curious about learning how you too can live a bird-friendly lifestyle, grab your favorite beverage, settle on your perch, and let's get into today's episode. Greetings, dear listeners. If you've listened to the show before, welcome back. If this is your first time tuning in, I am so happy you're here. I hope this episode finds you all happy and healthy and finding precious moments to venture outdoors and spend time with the birds. Lately, spending time outside observing birds has been my refuge. When the chaos around me feels like too much, I look to the birds. When I realize I've been doom scrolling too long, I look to the birds. When frustrations arise, I look to the birds. When I can't seem to focus on anything, I look to the birds. When the news or what's happening in the world overwhelms me, I look to the birds. It seems that whatever is troubling me, birds make things better. They are a natural remedy to what ails me. I'm grateful I have the opportunity to observe birds right outside my door. I don't have to go anywhere special. I don't need any fancy equipment. And I don't have to be an expert in ornithology. All I need is curiosity, patience, and a few observation skills. With those three things, I've managed to build my bird identification list and knowledge from a handful of birds to hundreds of birds. Many I can now also ID by their songs or calls. Many of you may know I'm not a lister, one who keeps lists of birds they see. So much of the knowledge I've acquired over the past 2 years of birding has happened organically and evolved over time. I started with learning my resident birds, the ones that are always in my yard, memorizing their bird song or calls, their preferred habitat, their diets, personalities, and mannerisms. From there, I moved on to the migratory species, the ones that breed and nest here, and the ones that overwinter here. I'm still learning much about the species that only migrate through on their way to somewhere else during the spring and fall. Why, just the other day, I glanced out the window to see a rose-breasted grosbeak dining on squirrel goodies I leave on the picnic table. The bird's striking plumage stood out like a black and white exclamation point as he hopped along the tabletop, plucking up fruit and cracked corn with its thick, seed-cracking beak. It was a lifer for me, as I've never seen one in person before. If a female was around, I didn't get eyes on her, but the male hung around the yard for about an hour, snacking and then making several trips to one of the bird baths. Since spotting the rose-breasted grosbeak, I've learned they breed in northeastern U.S. and eastern Canada, migrating down to South America during the winter. Observing a new-to-me species is one of the most joyful and exciting things about birding, especially when I encounter one in my own yard. I got a little sidetracked, but that's how my brain works. Let's circle back to the idea of birds being a natural remedy to what ails us. If you're listening to the podcast, I assume you're either a birder of some type or level, or maybe a nature lover. But have you ever stopped to consider all of the benefits birding offers you? Besides the obvious hobby, adventure, and fun aspects, birding presents a flock of mental and physical health benefits, from getting outdoors, breathing fresh air, to mindfulness and stress relief. Birding helps. It's not a fix-all, and it should not ever replace a doctor or therapist, but the addition of birding to your lifestyle will benefit you physically, mentally, and might I even get a bit woo-woo and say spiritually? So the next time you're feeling stressed, frustrated, sad, find yourself doom scrolling, or overwhelmed with the constant chaos churning around you, step outside or move to a window. Look to the birds and feel better, boo. Now, aside from the very cool rose breasted grosbeak that showed up recently, there have been a few other spring migration comings and goings in the yard. All the overwintering sparrows and the American goldfinches have gone back to wherever it is that they breed and nest. I won't see any of the sparrows or goldfinches until late fall when they will arrive in large flocks and demand the feeders be filled daily. Our pocketbook is happier during the summer when many of the species are supplementing their diets with insects. Speaking of insects, this month I've had the pleasure of watching a pair of Carolina chickadees nest in one of our lopped off, dead tree trunks. I knew exactly when the babies hatched because all day long, for about a week straight, both parents took turns bringing caterpillars one by one to the hole. So many caterpillars. I also observed a brown headed cowbird attempt to squeeze into the nest. After her third attempt trying to get in, she realized it wasn't happening and moved on. Can I just say, I love all birds? Really, I do. But it's a little disheartening to see the brown cowbirds being, well, brown cowbirds. It's like the other birds do all the work and then they just swoop in, drop off their eggs, and are like, see ya, wouldn't want to be ya. There seems to be more brown headed cowbirds in my yard than there were last year. I know, the brown headed cowbirds have a bad reputation, but despite all of their negative qualities, they actually have some great ones. First, they're beautiful birds. They do make some really cool, interesting sounds and calls, and their resilience and survival skills are top notch. Last week, I watched a Carolina wren who nested in one of my potted plants, feeding what I am assuming was a brown-headed cowbird nestling who left the nest a bit early. The nestling was as big as Mama Wren and extremely demanding. I've kept a close watch on the other two wren nestlings in the nest. They're still doing okay. I'm guessing that the baby cowbird left and possibly joined its species flock. I do find it fascinating how the baby cowbirds, once they've left the nest and their surrogate parents, that they migrate to their own species. The white-eyed vireos, indigo, and painted buntings are back, luring me with their songs to the dense edges of the woods. I've gotten pretty good at spotting the white-eyed vireos, but the indigo and painted buntings still evade me more often than not. As far as spring goes, we've had a fairly normal, albeit warm, spring season. But I can't help feeling that things are a little wonky and off with the migratory arrivals and departures. One return I've been awaiting since last fall is that of the yellow-billed cuckoo. I feel like they should have returned by now. They are one of my favorite summer nesting birds here at our place. Every day I'm outside, I listen and wait for the familiar croaking call of the rain crow. Oh, and if you're waiting for the cedar waxwings to return to your area, they're still here. I still have flocks hanging around the treetops at our place here in Southeast Texas. I'm not sure what's going on, but they seem to be lingering around a little bit longer than usual. I have a few other spring migration arrivals, but I will save them for the next episode. I shared one of my newfound avian loves on Instagram recently. While in DC, I became smitten with pigeons. Because the average park or urban pigeon comes in a wide variety of colors, it's sometimes difficult for someone like me to correctly ID the species. But I believe many of the ones I encountered in DC were feral or wild rock pigeons, Columba livia. Feral rock pigeons are descended from birds that escaped from dovecotes or other captive situations. In turn, domesticated pigeons were bred from wild rock pigeons, a species formerly known as the rock dove, but renamed in 2004. Once domesticated, the birds were raised for food, trained for homing, racing, carrying messages, used in wartime and in research. Feral or wild pigeons live in urban areas on every continent except Antarctica. By contrast, wild rock pigeons are now confined to outlying Scottish islands and remote parts of the Mediterranean, North Africa, and Western Asia. Many people see pigeons as urban pests, dirty, messy, and they've even acquired nicknames like rats with wings or flying rats. But I find them to be rather charming, quirky, and entertaining. And honestly, they're beautiful, oftentimes sporting iridescent green and purple plumage on their necks, with orange eyes and adorable pink feet. Pigeons are one of the most colorful birds in our urban areas. I have become so taken by these birds, I've even started painting them. Most recently, I created a snarky character named Midge the Pidge. So far, Midge's purpose is for art in action for a postcard series I'm calling Midge Made Me Do It. She and I mailed out our first 5 postcards this past week to government officials. I'd love to be a fly on the wall watching the staff members of each elected official open our postcards. I'll say this, Midge was extra spicy when we created our first mail out this past week. I'm not sure that Midge and I will share our art in action on social media just yet, but when we do, you will be first to know. This coming weekend on May 10th is World Migratory Bird Day, which is officially celebrated on the second Saturday of May in the US and Canada. This year, the theme is conservation-based called Shared Spaces. Here is what the migratorybirdday.org website states. This year, we're focusing on making our cities, villages, towns, and communities from rural to urban more bird-friendly. In 2025, World Migratory Bird Day will raise awareness about the many challenges migratory birds face due to human activities and expanding urban development. The campaign will advocate for strategic urban planning and conservation efforts that incorporate bird-friendly practices, making sure that our communities become havens for these remarkable travelers. I love that the 2025 World Migratory Bird Day theme coincides with the bird-friendly actions that we discussed here on the podcast during the beginning of the season. Now, to celebrate World Migratory Bird Day, eBird is holding a global bird count on Saturday, May 10th also. No matter where you are, the eBird app makes it simple for you to participate in the bird count. You don't need to be a bird expert or go out all day long. Even 10 or 15 minutes of birding from home counts. Global Big Day Count runs from midnight to midnight in your local time zone. I will drop a link to the eBird website for the Global Big Day page in the show notes. Participatory science fosters a deep connection between people and their environment, and it is a powerful conservation tool. It garners awareness in environmental stewardship. It's also an impactful way to be part of something bigger, something important for science, wild bird populations, our environment, and us. I did an episode back in February about the Great Backyard Bird Count that gives a lot of specific information about how to do an actual bird count. I will link the episode for you in the show notes. Well, that wraps up the episode. I'll be back next week. Until then, I wish you well and joyful birding, my friends. I'll leave you with a few seconds of Carolina chickadee baby chittering. The babies seem to be enjoying the big world of my backyard the past couple of days. If you are enjoying the Birding for Joy podcast, I would greatly appreciate it if you would subscribe to the show. Subscribing and tuning in to the episodes allows the algorithms on the platforms to know that the podcast is providing you worthwhile content and helps ensure the success of the show. Remember, the absolute best way to support your favorite podcast is by word of mouth. So make sure to share Birding for Joy with others who might enjoy listening. That way we can continue to build a joyful birding community. As always, thank you for tuning in, my friends.